She clutched her worn purse tighter as the laughter echoed behind her at the bus stop. The same designer-clad women who mocked her daily commute had no idea that in just 24 hours a convoy of Ferraris would pull up to personally escort her home. What they didn't know was that Maya wasn't just another struggling waitress, she was about to reveal a secret that would silence their cruel whispers forever. Sometimes the most extraordinary love stories hide behind the most ordinary facades. Maya Rodriguez had perfected the art of invisible living. Every morning at 5:47 a.m. she'd slip out of her cramped studio apartment above the laundromat on Maple Street, her footsteps barely making a sound on the creaky wooden stair. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The smell of industrial detergent and fabric softener had become her alarm clock, mixing with the distant hum of early morning traffic that never quite stopped in this corner of downtown. Her daily routine was as predictable as sunrise. She'd catch the number 42 bus at the corner of 5th and Elm, clutching exact change in her palm because every penny counted. The 20-minute ride to Rosewood Plaza took her through 3 different worlds, from her working-class neighborhood with its pawnshops and corner markets, through the middle-class suburbs with their neat lawns and minivans, and finally into the glittering shopping district where she spent her days serving people who earned more in a week than she made in a year. The bus was her refuge and her reminder. She'd press her forehead against the cool window and watch the city transform before her eyes, each neighborhood a different chapter in a story she felt she was reading but never quite living. The other passengers were like her, quiet people with calloused hands and tired eyes, heading to jobs that paid just enough to keep them coming back tomorrow. Maya worked at Bella Vista, an upscale café nestled between a luxury boutique and an art gallery that sold paintings worth more than most people's cars. The irony wasn't lost on her that she served $20 salads to women who complained about the price while casually discussing their weekend trips to Napa Valley. She'd learned to smile and nod, to make herself small and accommodating, to accept their casual dismissal as part of the job. Her manager, Patricia, was a sharp-featured woman in her 50s who treated the waitstaff like interchangeable parts in a well-oiled machine. Maya had been working there for 3 years, ever since she'd moved to the city from her hometown of Cedar Falls after her mother's death. She'd come with dreams that felt foolish now. Maybe she'd take night classes, maybe she'd save enough to open her own small business, maybe she'd find her place in this vast, indifferent city. Those dreams had been slowly worn down by reality. Rent ate up most of her paycheck, leaving just enough for groceries and bus fare. She'd learned to shop at the discount store after 8 p.m. when they marked down the produce, to stretch a single tube of mascara for 6 months, to darn holes in her socks rather than buy new ones. It wasn't the life she'd imagined at 26, but it was the life she had. The worst part wasn't the financial struggle, it was the way she'd become invisible. Customers looked through her as if she were part of the furniture. Her co-workers were polite but distant, cycling through their own survival routines without energy left for real friendship. Even her neighbors in the apartment building barely acknowledged her existence beyond the occasional nod in the hallway. Maya had convinced herself that invisible was safe. If no one noticed you, no one could hurt you. If you didn't reach for more, you couldn't be disappointed when you didn't get it. She'd built a fortress of low expectations around her heart, and most days it felt like protection rather than prison. Her only real companion was Luna, a gray tabby cat she'd found shivering behind the dumpster at work 6 months ago. The kitten had been so small and frightened that Maya couldn't bear to leave her there, despite knowing she could barely afford to feed herself, let alone a pet. But Luna had brought something back to life in Maya's tiny apartment, a sense of purpose, of being needed, of having someone to care for besides herself. The breaking point came on a Tuesday that started like any other. Maya was running late because Luna had somehow gotten into the bathroom and knocked over her makeup bag, sending her precious foundation rolling under the bathtub. By the time she'd retrieved it and applied enough to cover the dark circles under her eyes, she'd missed her usual bus. The next one was crowded with the morning rush, and Maya found herself pressed between a businessman who smelled like expensive cologne and a teenager with earbuds playing music so loud she could hear every word. She'd learned to find zen in these moments, to retreat into her own thoughts while her body navigated the familiar chaos of public transportation. As the bus pulled up to her stop at Rosewood Plaza, Maya noticed a cluster of well-dressed women waiting at the adjacent bus stop. She recognized them immediately, regular customers from the café, the kind who ordered complicated modifications to menu items and left minimal tips while complaining loudly about the service. They were dressed in their usual uniform of yoga pants that cost more than Maya's monthly grocery budget and designer handbags that gleamed like jewelry. "Oh my God, look who takes the bus," one of them said loudly enough for everyone to hear. It was Jennifer Whitman, a blonde real estate agent who came in twice a week for a skinny vanilla latte with oat milk and exactly 2 packets of stevia. The waitress from Bella Vista, how quaint. Her friends giggled, a sound like breaking glass in the morning air. Maya felt her cheeks burn as she tried to walk past them with her head down, but their conversation followed her like a spotlight she couldn't escape. "I always wondered how the help gets around," another voice chimed in. This was Caroline Fletcher, who'd once sent back a perfectly good sandwich because the bread was slightly too toasted for her liking. "I guess not everyone can afford an Uber." The laughter that erupted made Maya's skin crawl. She quickened her pace, her worn sneakers silent against the pavement, but their voices carried on the morning breeze. She caught fragments of their conversation as she hurried away, something about knowing your place and the service industry, and at least she's trying. Maya made it through the back entrance of Bella Vista before the tears came. She locked herself in the single-staff bathroom and let herself cry for exactly 3 minutes, long enough to release the humiliation, short enough that her eyes wouldn't be too red when she started her shift. She'd learned to ration her emotions like everything else in her life. The morning shift passed in a blur of coffee orders and forced smiles. Every time Jennifer or Caroline or any of their circle came in, Maya felt their eyes on her differently now, as if they were cataloging her cheap uniform and scuffed shoes, filing away more ammunition for their next public performance of superiority. By lunch break, Maya felt raw and exposed, like a nerd walking around in human form. She decided to skip her usual routine of eating a granola bar in the back alley, and instead walked to the small park across from the plaza. There was a bench there, partially hidden by an old oak tree, where she could disappear for 30 minutes. She was unwrapping her granola bar when she heard footsteps approaching. Maya tensed, expecting to see another café customer who might recognize her, but instead found herself looking at a man in paint-splattered jeans and a faded t-shirt. He had kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses and hair that looked like he'd been running his fingers through it. There was something about him that felt different from the usual foot traffic in this part of town, less polished, more real. "Excuse me," he said, his voice warm and slightly hesitant. "I don't suppose you know if there's a decent coffee shop around here? I'm new to the area, and everything I've tried so far tastes like dishwater." Maya almost smiled at that. If he only knew that she spent her days serving $20 dishwater to people who pretended it was liquid gold. "There's Bella Vista right across the street," she said, pointing toward the cafe. "Fair warning though, it's pretty expensive." He followed her gaze and grimaced slightly. "That fancy-looking place, I was hoping for something more authentic. You know, the kind of place where actual people drink coffee, not where they go to be seen drinking coffee." This time Maya did smile, just a small one. "You might have to venture outside of Rosewood Plaza for that. This whole area is pretty much designed for people who want to be seen." "Figured as much," he said, settling onto the other end of the bench without asking permission. Maya tensed slightly. She wasn't used to strangers inserting themselves into her space, but something about his presence felt comfortable, rather than intrusive. "I'm Alex, by the way. Alex Chen. Just moved here from Portland for work." "Maya," she replied, surprising herself by offering her name so readily. "What do you do, Maya?" he asked, unwrapping what looked like a homemade sandwich from a brown paper bag. "Besides give excellent coffee shop reviews to confuse newcomers." She hesitated. In her experience, telling people she was a waitress led to one of two responses, either polite disinterest or the kind of condescending sympathy that made her want to crawl into a hole. "I work in food service," she said finally. "Cool. I bet you've got some stories." People get weird around food.
Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Alex took a bite of his sandwich and made a face, though probably not as weird as they get around art. "I'm a curator at the Morrison Gallery down on 3rd Street. Started yesterday and I'm already questioning every life choice that led me here." Maya knew the Morrison Gallery by reputation. It was newer and less pretentious than some of the other galleries in the Arts District, known for showcasing local artists alongside more established names. "Art world drama?" she asked. "You have no idea. Apparently there's a whole hierarchy based on whose work sells for more, who gets featured in which magazines, who gets invited to which openings.
It's like high school but with more expensive outfits. He shook his head. I got into this field because I love art, you know. The way it can make you feel something, change how you see the world, but sometimes the business side makes you forget why you started. Maya understood that feeling more than she could say. She'd loved cooking once, had dreamed of running a small restaurant where she could create food that brought people joy rather than serving overpriced salads to people who barely tasted them. It's hard when something you care about becomes just a job, she said softly. Alex looked at her with genuine interest, as if her words mattered. Exactly, you get it. He was quiet for a moment, studying her face. Can I ask you something? And feel free to tell me it's none of my business. Maya nodded, curious despite herself. You seem sad. Not just tired from work sad, but really sad. Like someone dimmed your lights. His voice was gentle without pity. I don't know you, so maybe I'm completely wrong, but I've been there. That feeling like you're watching your life happen to someone else. The accuracy of his observation hit her like a physical blow. Maya felt tears prick at her eyes and looked away quickly. I should probably get back to work, she said, starting to stand. Hey, wait. Alex's voice stopped her. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to upset you. It's just, I recognize that look. I wore it for about 2 years after my divorce when I felt like I'd lost myself completely. He stood too, facing her. Look, this might be totally inappropriate since we just met, but would you maybe want to get actual coffee sometime? Not the overpriced stuff across the street. I mean real coffee, at a place where people go because they like coffee, not because they want to post pictures of it. Maya stared at him, certain she'd misheard. Men like Alex, educated, articulate, kind, didn't ask women like her to coffee. They dated women with careers and savings accounts and shoes that weren't held together with superglue. Why? She asked before she could stop herself. Because in the 10 minutes we've been talking, you've been more real with me than anyone has since I moved here. Because you didn't try to impress me or sell me anything or ask me what I could do for you. Because something about you makes me want to know more. He smiled, and it transformed his entire face. And because you're the first person who's looked at me like I'm a human being instead of a networking opportunity. Maya felt something shift inside her chest, like a door she'd kept locked for years creaking open just an inch. It was terrifying and wonderful at the same time. I don't really date, she said honestly. I work a lot, and I'm not very good at this. She gestured vaguely between them. Neither am I, apparently, hence the divorce. Alex's smile turned rueful, but I make excellent conversation over mediocre coffee, and I promise not to ask you about your 5-year plan or your favorite Netflix shows on the first date. Despite everything, Maya laughed, a real laugh, not the careful smile she wore at work. The sound surprised her. Okay, she heard herself say, coffee, but somewhere with normal prices. Deal. How about Thursday evening? There's a place called The Daily Grind about 10 minutes from here that looks promising, very unpretentious, lots of books, the kind of place where they probably know everyone's name. Maya nodded, already second-guessing herself but unable to take back the yes that had escaped her lips. They exchanged phone numbers, and Alex typed her contact information into his phone like it was something precious. I'm really glad I decided to eat lunch in this park today, he said, as they prepared. Something tells me this city just got a lot more interesting. As Maya walked back to Bella Vista, she felt lighter somehow, as if she'd been carrying a weight she hadn't even noticed until it was gone. For the first time in months, she found herself looking forward to something beyond just getting through the day. She didn't see Jennifer and Caroline watching her from the cafe window, their eyes tracking her conversation with Alex, their minds already spinning theories about the waitress who dared to laugh with a stranger in broad daylight. She didn't notice the way they leaned their heads together, whispering like conspirators plotting their next move. Maya was too busy feeling something she'd almost forgotten existed, hope. Thursday evening arrived faster than Maya had expected. She'd changed clothes 3 times in her tiny apartment, settling finally on her best pair of jeans and a navy sweater that didn't have any visible stains. Luna watched from her perch on the windowsill as Maya applied lip gloss with shaking hands. She couldn't remember the last time she'd felt this nervous about anything. The daily grind was exactly as Alex had described: warm lighting, mismatched furniture, and the comfortable buzz of real conversation rather than performative socializing. Maya spotted him immediately at a corner table, reading what looked like an art magazine. When he looked up and smiled, She felt that same flutter in her chest from the park. Their conversation flowed effortlessly. Alex told her about his childhood in San Francisco, his ex-wife, who'd left him for her personal trainer, his dreams of opening his own gallery someday. Maya found herself sharing stories she'd never told anyone about her mother's illness, about the small bakery she'd once imagined running, about feeling invisible in a city full of people. Coffee turned into dinner at a tiny Vietnamese restaurant Alex knew. Dinner turned into a walk through the old downtown district, where they discovered a shared love of vintage bookstores and street art. When Alex walked her to the bus stop, Maya felt like she was waking up from a long sleep. Their second date was a Saturday afternoon at the farmer's market. Alex insisted on buying ingredients for dinner, claiming he wanted to cook for her. They spent hours wandering between vendors, Alex asking Maya's opinion on everything from tomatoes to fresh. When an elderly farmer recognized Alex and greeted him warmly, Maya realized this wasn't Alex trying to impress her, this was simply who he was. The dinner he cooked in her tiny kitchen was nothing fancy, just pasta with fresh vegetables and herbs, but it was the best meal Maya had eaten in years. They sat on her second-hand couch with Luna purring between them, talking until nearly midnight about everything and nothing. When Alex finally left, he kissed her softly at the door, and Maya felt the last of her walls beginning to crumble. 3 weeks into whatever they were calling their relationship, Maya's routine had shifted to accommodate something she'd never had before: joy. Alex would text her good morning every day, sometimes with photos of interesting art he'd encountered or funny observations about gallery life. He'd started picking her up after work twice a week, claiming he was in the neighborhood, though Maya suspected he was going out of his way. The first crack in Maya's newfound happiness came on a Tuesday morning. Jennifer and Caroline had been watching her more intently lately, their whispered conversations stopping abruptly whenever she approached their table. Maya tried to ignore it, focusing on her work, but she could feel their eyes tracking her movements. "Maya, darling," Jennifer called out as Maya refilled the coffee station. Her voice had that saccharine quality that always preceded cruelty. "We've been so curious about your new boyfriend. The one we saw you with at the farmer's market." Maya's hand stilled on the coffee pot. She'd known this moment would come eventually. "I don't know what you mean," she said quietly. Caroline laughed, a sharp sound that cut through the ambient cafe noise. "Oh please, Alex Chen, right? From the Morrison Gallery? We did a little research." She held up her phone, displaying what looked like a social media profile. "Quite the catch for someone in your situation." The way she said situations made Maya's skin crawl. She set down the coffee pot carefully, trying to keep her hands steady. "I should get back to work." "Oh, but we're just getting started," Jennifer said, her smile widening like a predator scenting blood. "See, Caroline's husband knows some people in the art world, very connected people. And apparently your Alex isn't quite what he seems." Maya wanted to walk away, to refuse to engage, but something in Jennifer's tone kept her frozen in place. She could see other customers starting to notice the conversation, could feel the familiar weight of being the center of unwanted attention. Caroline leaned forward conspiratorially. "Did you know his family owns Chen Industries? As in, the Chen Industries that builds half the skyscrapers in this city." Poor Alex, slumming it with the gallery job while sitting on a trust fund worth more than this entire plaza. The words hit Maya like physical blows. Trust fund, rich family, slumming it. She thought about Alex's paint-splattered clothes, his beat-up Honda, his claims about living paycheck to paycheck in the art world. Had it all been an act? A rich boy playing at being normal? "Of course, maybe you already knew," Jennifer continued, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "Maybe that's why you're with him. Smart girl, really. Catch yourself a wealthy man and never have to take the bus again." Maya felt her face burning with humiliation and rage. "That's not, I didn't know." "Oh, you sweet thing," Caroline cooed. "You really had no idea, did you? Well, don't worry. I'm sure when his family finds out he's dating the help, they'll put a stop to it quickly enough. These old money families don't like their sons mixing with the wrong sort." The cafe had gone quiet around them. Maya could feel every eye in the place watching this public dissection of her private life. Her chest felt tight, like she couldn't get enough air. Without another word, she turned and fled to the back room, ignoring Patricia's sharp call of her name. In the staff bathroom, Maya pulled out her phone with trembling fingers and searched for Alex Chen. The results made her stomach drop. Photo after photo of a younger Alex at charity galas and society events. Articles about the Chen family's real estate empire. A Forbes profile mentioning Alex as the heir apparent who'd shocked everyone by pursuing art instead of business. The man in those photos looked like her Alex, but different, polished, expensive, standing next to people in designer gowns and tailored suits, looking perfectly at home in a world Maya could never belong to. How had she been so naive? How had she let herself believe that someone like him could genuinely care about someone like her? Maya made it through the rest of her shift on autopilot, her mind spinning with questions and self-recrimination. When Alex texted her about dinner plans, she stared at the message for 10 minutes before typing back a single word, busy. She took the bus home in a daze, Jennifer and Caroline's words echoing in her head. The other passengers looked different now, not like fellow travelers, but like witnesses to her foolishness. Every face seemed to reflect the same question: what made you think you deserved more than this? Alex called that evening. Maya let it go to voicemail. He called again an hour later, then sent a series of increasingly concerned text messages. Maya turned off her phone and buried herself under Luna's purring warmth, trying to forget the way Alex's eyes had looked when he smiled at her, trying to convince herself that none of it had been real. The next morning brought a knock at her door. Maya peered through the peephole to see Alex standing in the hallway, holding 2 coffee cups and looking worried. She considered pretending she wasn't home, but Luna's loud meowing had probably already given her away. "Maya, please," Alex said when she finally opened the door. "I've been worried sick. Are you okay? Did something happen?" Looking at him now, Maya could see what she'd missed before. The expensive watch he tried to hide under his sleeves, the subtle quality of his supposedly casual clothes, the way he carried himself, confident in a way that came from never having to doubt whether you belonged somewhere. "I know," she said simply. Alex's face went carefully blank. "Know what? About your family, about the money, about who you really are." Maya crossed her arms, trying to hold herself together. "Chen Industries, Alex. Really? Did you think I'd never find out?" For a long moment, Alex said nothing. Then his shoulders sagged, and he looked suddenly exhausted. "Can I come in, please? Let me explain." Against her better judgment, Maya stepped aside. Alex set the coffee cups on her small table and sat heavily on her couch, running his hands through his hair. "You're right," he said finally. "I should have told you from the beginning. My family does own Chen Industries. I do have access to more money than I'll ever need. And yes, I've been lying to you about it." Each word felt like a small knife. Maya sank into the chair across from him, Luna jumping into her lap as if sensing her distress. "But everything else," Alex continued, his voice urgent. "Everything about how I feel about you, everything we've shared, that's real, Maya. More real than anything I've felt in years. How can I believe that?" Maya's voice cracked. "You've been lying to me since the day we met, playing dress up as a normal person while I've been worried about bus fare and whether I can afford groceries. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is?" Alex leaned forward, his eyes pleading. "I never meant to humiliate you. I wanted someone to see me for who I am, not what I have. Do you know what it's like to never know if someone likes you or your bank account? To have every conversation be a calculation about what someone wants from you?" "Poor little rich boy," Maya said bitterly. "Forgive me if I don't feel sorry for you. I'm not asking for your sympathy," Alex said quietly. "I'm asking for your understanding. Yes, I have money. Yes, I could probably buy this entire building without thinking about it. But I also spent 2 years in therapy after my divorce because I'd completely lost myself trying to be what my family expected. The gallery job? That's real. My love for art? That's real. The way I feel about you? That's the most real thing in my life." Maya wanted to believe him, but the betrayal cut too deep. "Your ex-wife, was she poor too? Another charity case for you to rescue?" "No," Alex said, and something in his tone made Maya look at him more closely. "Jessica was from a family even wealthier than mine. We were together for 5 years, married for 3, and I never knew if she loved me or the idea of combining 2 fortunes. When she left, she told me I was boring, that I cared more about dusty paintings than making real money. She said I was wasting my potential." He was quiet for a moment, staring at his hands. "With you, none of that matters. You care about my thoughts, my dreams, the way I see the world. You've never once asked me what I could do for you, or how you could benefit from knowing me. You just see me." Maya felt tears burning behind her eyes. "But I was right to see you as normal, wasn't I? Because you're not. You're from a completely different world, Alex. A world where people like Jennifer and Caroline are probably right, where your family won't want their son dating the help. My family can go to hell, Alex said fiercely. I don't care what they think. I care what you think. But I do care what they think, Maya whispered. Because eventually it would matter. Eventually you'd get tired of slumming it with me. Eventually you'd want someone who fits into your real life. Alex stood abruptly, pacing to her small window. When he turned back, his face was set with determination. Maya, I need to show you something. But first, I need you to promise me you'll let me explain everything before you make any decisions about us. Maya wiped her eyes, exhausted by the emotional whiplash. What do you mean, show me something? My real life, all of it. The good, the bad, and the complicated. Alex pulled out his phone. There's a charity gala tomorrow night. The kind of event where my whole family will be, where all their expectations and social games play out. Come with me. Alex, no, I can't. I don't belong at something like that. That's exactly why I need you there. To remind me who I really am underneath all the bullshit. His voice softened. Maya, I'm not asking you to forgive me right now. I'm asking you to let me prove that what we have is worth fighting for. One night, let me show you that I choose you, publicly, completely regardless of what anyone thinks. Maya looked at him, really looked at him. Despite everything, despite the lies and the hurt, she could see the sincerity in his eyes. The same warmth that had drawn her to him in the park was still there, overlaid now with desperation and hope. I don't have anything to wear to a charity gala, she said finally. Alex's face lit up with the first real smile she'd seen from him since he'd arrived. Leave that to me, just trust me one more time. The next evening Maya stood in front of her bathroom mirror barely recognizing herself. The dress Alex had sent was stunning, midnight blue silk that fit her perfectly, elegant without being ostentatious. A note had come with it. This isn't about changing you, it's about the world seeing what I see every day. You're perfect exactly as you are. Alex picked her up in a car Maya didn't recognize, sleek, expensive, with a driver who greeted him as Mr. Chen. As they drove through the city toward the downtown hotel hosting the gala, Maya felt her anxiety mounting. Alex, she said as they pulled up to a red carpet lined with photographers, I can't do this, look at all these people. Alex took her hand, squeezing gently. Hey, look at me. When she met his eyes, he smiled. You're the strongest person I know. You've survived things these people can't even imagine. You belong anywhere you choose to be. The ballroom was overwhelming, crystal chandeliers, men in perfect tuxedos, women in gowns that cost more than Maya's annual rent. But Alex never left her side, introducing her simply as Maya, the woman I love, to everyone they met. When his parents approached, Maya braced herself for coldness or dismissal. Instead, Alex's mother embraced her warmly. You must be Maya. Alex hasn't stopped talking about you. His father shook her hand with genuine warmth, asking about her work at the café with what seemed like sincere interest. We've been wondering when Alex would bring someone special around, his mother continued. He's been so much happier lately, more like himself than he's been in years. As the evening progressed, Maya began to relax. Alex's family was wealthy, yes, but they were also kind, funny, and surprisingly down to earth. His sister Sarah spent 20 minutes telling Maya embarrassing stories about Alex's teenage art phase, while his brother Kevin asked thoughtful questions about her experiences in food service. During dinner, Alex stood to give a speech about the charity they were supporting, an organization that provided art supplies to underprivileged schools. As he spoke passionately about the importance of creativity and self-expression for all children, Maya saw him clearly for perhaps the first time. Not as the gallery worker who'd hidden his wealth, not as the rich boy playing at being normal, but as someone who genuinely cared about using his privilege to make a difference. When he returned to his seat, he leaned over and whispered, "Thank you for being here. For giving us another chance." Maya was about to respond when she heard a familiar laugh from across the room. Jennifer and Caroline were at a table near the silent auction, dressed to the nines and clearly in their element. They'd spotted Maya and were staring with undisguised shock. "Excuse me for a moment," Maya said to Alex, standing before he could protest. She walked across the ballroom with her head high, feeling every step in her borrowed heels. When she reached their table, both women looked like they'd seen a ghost. "Maya," Jennifer stammered. "What are you? How did you?" "Good evening, Jennifer." "Caroline." Maya's voice was calm, steady. "I wanted to thank you." "Thank us," Caroline squeaked, "for helping me realize something important. You were right, I am dating someone wealthy, someone whose family has more money than I could ever dream of. But you were wrong about why. Maya smiled, feeling stronger than she had in years. He doesn't love me despite who I am. He loves me because of who I am, and I love him the same way. She turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Caroline, you might want to mention to your husband that Alex's family is considering new contractors for their next development project. I'd hate for your little research hobby to cost him business. As Maya walked back across the ballroom, she heard Alex's voice behind her. Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention for just one more moment. The room quieted as Alex stood at their table, reaching for Maya's hand as she approached. I'd like to introduce you all to the most important person in my life, Maya Rodriguez, who reminds me every day that the best things in life aren't things at all. Maya, would you do me the honor of letting me love you openly, honestly, and for the rest of our lives? He dropped to one knee, pulling out a ring box that caught the light from the chamber. The ballroom erupted in gasps and applause, but Maya only saw Alex's face, full of love and hope, and the promise of a future she'd never dared to imagine. Yes, she whispered, then louder. Yes. As Alex slipped the ring onto her finger and pulled her into his arms, Maya caught sight of Jennifer and Caroline's faces across the room, shocked, embarrassed and suddenly very small, but Maya barely registered them. She was too busy kissing the man who'd seen her worth from the very beginning, surrounded by a room full of people celebrating their love. 6 months later, Maya stood at the window of her new home, their home, watching as a convoy of red Ferraris pulled into the driveway. Alex's friends from his car collecting club had insisted on giving her a proper escort to their engagement party, claiming it was tradition. Maya laughed as she watched them arrange themselves like a parade, each driver giving her a theatrical bow. Her phone buzzed with a text from Sarah, "Ready for your royal escort, future sister-in-law." Maya looked down at her engagement ring, still hardly believing it was real. The life she'd built with Alex was nothing like the fairy tales she'd once read. It was better. It was real, complicated, and built on a foundation of genuine love and respect. As she walked outside to meet her Ferrari convoy, Maya thought about the woman she'd been just a year ago, invisible and afraid, taking the bus because it was all she could afford. That woman had deserved love too, had been worthy of respect and kindness, and all the beautiful possibilities life could offer. Sometimes the most extraordinary transformations happen not because we change who we are, but because we finally find someone who sees who we've always been. And sometimes, just sometimes, love really can overcome everything else. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.